For those of you who are new, this usually, or used before the coronavirus hit, we used to have this in the Peace Pentagon. So I created a virtual background so people could see the Peace Pentagon, because that's normally where we would be. And we hold these spirituality salons once a month, and we always invite a guest speaker. And so tonight is Joyce Rouse. Her night to lead us, and she's going to be doing some songs from her Herstory CD, and the theme tonight is going to be all about women's rights, the suffragette movement, the Equal Rights Amendment, and because it's Mother's Day weekend, we're going to talk a little bit about Julia Ward Howe and the Mother's Day Proclamation. Joyce is a local treasure in Grayson County, though her reputation far exceeds the boundaries of our county. And when contemplating who we wanted to do the salon for Mother's Day weekend, it was a pretty obvious choice. So I took the piece regarding the Mother's Day Proclamation, which is just so near to my heart. Julia Ward Howe is probably best known for writing the Battle Hymn of the Republic, which she wrote after she met President Lincoln. She lived an amazing life. She was a free thinker almost out of the womb. She left her birth religion, which was Episcopalian, and became a Unitarian. Her role in the women's suffragette movement in the United States is legendary. She was the president of the New England Women's Suffragette Association. Then she became president of the National Association for the Advancement of Women. She also was the first woman to ever be inducted into the American Academy of Arts and Letters, because she started as a poet. She also was the editor of the Women's Journal. So this is a woman who, back during a time when most women didn't have careers, who clearly had a career and was pushing the envelope as much as she could. Sadly, she died before women won the right to vote. She died in 1910, which makes me tear up when I think about it, because she devoted most of her life to women's issues. So for me, I saved the best, or my favorite piece, for last, which is the Mother's Day Proclamation. And she wrote it after the Civil War ended, because of all the heartbreak that she felt, others felt after the war ended. And we put it in your program, but I think it's worth reading out loud, because it is so beautiful, and it is the genesis of Mother's Day. There are a couple other women also contributed to the founding of Mother's Day, but I think Julia Ward Howe deserves credit. And before I read the proclamation, I also want to just say, and this can be something that we talk about in circle, that for me it's sad that it got turned into the Hallmark card event that we know today, because it started out as a very serious call to action for women. So she wrote, "Arise, all women who have hearts, whether your baptism be that of water or of tears. Say firmly, we will not have great questions decided by irrelevant agencies. Our husbands shall not come to us, reeking with carnage, for caresses and applause. Our sons shall not be taken from us, to unlearn all that we have been able to teach them of charity, mercy, and patience. We, women of one country, will be too tender of those of another, to allow our sons to be trained to injure theirs. From the bosom of the devastated earth, a voice goes up with our own. It says, disarm, disarm. The sword is not the balance of justice. Blood does not wipe out dishonor, nor violence vindicate possession. As men have often forsaken the plow and anvil at the summit of war, let women now leave all that may be left of home for a great and earnest day of counsel. Let them meet first as women, to bewail and commemorate the dead. Let them then solemnly take counsel with each other as to the means whereby the great human family can live in peace Man is the brother of man, each bearing after his own kind the sacred impress, not of Caesar, but of God. In the name of womanhood and of humanity, I earnestly ask that a general Congress of women without limit of nationality may be appointed and held at some place deemed most convenient, and at the earliest period consistent with its objects, to promote the alliance of the different nationalities, the amicable settlement of international questions, the great and general interests of peace. So with that as a starting point, I'm going to turn it over to our guest speaker, Joyce, to tell us a little bit about what happened after that. And later we'll open the discussion up on the topic of women's rights in general. Joyce, please.
Okay, great. I am so grateful, Laura, that you introduced this to me. I was not aware of it, or if I had seen it many years ago, I had forgotten about it. And I think it does one really important thing. It really turned on some light bulbs for me, and that is as we are celebrating the 100th anniversary of women's suffrage. Her document and her life and her work really ties these things together. And it's like the first direct connection from suffrage to Mother's Day that I have seen. Mother's Day means a lot of different things to different people because we all had different mothers, we had different experiences, and it made me start thinking about the larger idea of birthing and mothering and our cosmic history, actually. And as we look at the history of Mother's Day, I was thinking that it's appropriate that's in springtime when we look at our ancient celebrations of Beltane, of Easter, of spring. It's all about new growth and birth, and which is why we have the little baby chicks and all of those things. But it's so symbolic of so many other things because there's a lot of other mothering that goes on that we don't always think about. I know for Mother's Day, I always think about all of the women who have mentored me and encouraged me. Some of us were talking about our own mothers as we did sound check yesterday. And I lost my mother when I was 28. So there were some wonderful people in the community who kind of moved into that role and mentored me. Nancy Smith here in Grayson County, as I gave birth and had my own child. And, you know, there's still this, for those of us who have lost our mothers, many of us think of them every day, and our grandmothers and all of those others who mothered us. But I also started looking at the larger context of what we're going through now. And in our cosmic history of 13.7 billion years since the original flaring forth, everything that we have around us is because of birthing. The birthing of stars, the original flaring forth. As we study our timeline of history and the birthing of the first eyeball in evolution. I mean, when you think how a single cell organism can go to developing eyes and ears and complex organs, Mother Nature is the greatest birthing of them all. I've been doing an online study course of our cosmic history, and one of the subjects recently was cosmic collapse, as we look at the collapse that is happening around the pandemic. And really, what comes out of collapse is fresh new birthing. This the fecundity of everything around us arrives out of this. The astronomer teaching this noted that there are, according to the current math, there are 30 supernovas in the universe every second. And it's out of those supernovas that we get new stars, new planets, the birth of the heavens, which is in a continual birthing. And we have to keep in mind that out of this collapse of whatever's happening with the economy, with our systems, that there will be new birth and new growth out of this. The earth is has given birth to humans, and that was really a reconstitution of after the loss of the dinosaurs. And every kind of birth is sort of a reconstitution of a collapse of something in our system. I know that Barbara Marx Hubbard has been a great friend of the Oracle Institute. And I am so moved by the times that I have heard her speak about how we need to look at the world through evolutionary eyes. And I want you to think about that, to look at the world through our evolutionary eyes, that richness, that fertility, and see that, you know, we are one little dot on the spectrum of everything. And there's an important reason we're here, and we have an important place there. But though there is so much more than our human brains can possibly consider. What is our role in nurturing and in singing welcome to new babies, to new ideas, to new cosmic structures, to kids and grandkids, to new social movements and new political movements, the transformational moments and the big shifts? We know that some of our ecological systems right now are unraveling at a much more rapid pace than ecologists and scientists predicted even 5 years or 10 years ago. Climate change being one of those, but just the dissolution of entire ecosystems. But we know that nature abhors vacuum, and that new species and new things will grow out of that. Through mutations, new life will be born, and it's a continual process. So I invite all of us to land in that and think about what the possibilities are of where in all this turmoil. I was doing a little research about, for years I'd heard that the symbol for crisis in one of the Chinese alphabets is the same as, or very similar to, the symbol for opportunity. And apparently that isn't exactly correct if you go into the linguists, but it makes a nice analogy, because every time there is a crisis, there are opportunities that come out of that. And with this ripping apart, I kind of like to imagine, when I'm meditating, the image of the light beings, the angels, our spirit guides, with their needles and crocheting hooks, reweaving parts of that ecosystem in their own way, the way that an expert tailor would take a fine tweed jacket and be able to weave together the pieces that maybe there's a little burn or a little snag in it. And just think about those possibilities. In honoring all of our mothers, let's think about how hope trails along beside us like a best friend as we move forward with these new movements and ideas and the great new things that we don't even know what to call yet as we create those.